Cold and flu season is back, and boy does it seem like a lot of people are getting sick, but you don't have to. In this video, I'm going to talk about a new product that makes it really easy to stay healthy even if someone else in your house is sick. And I'm also going to share some extremely effective and entirely free techniques that I've been using for many years, and whenever I have been using them, I've never gotten sick. So if the idea of making it through the next cold and flu season without any illnesses at all sounds appealing to you at all, stick around. Frequently, I think when people get into emergency preparedness, they're looking for something they can just kind of buy their way out of a problem. That's kind of the American, sort of the Western way of looking at things. What can I buy to solve this kind of problem? And don't you worry, this is a product review video, and we're going to be reviewing this air filter that relates to being able to stay, healthy during whatever kind of situation. But one of the things that I make sure that I do is just get proper nutrition, proper exercise, and proper rest. I think all of those are really, really important. None of them are exciting. It's not like you can just go out there and buy rest or buy exercise. These are things you have to prioritize in your life and put an effort on them. Nutrition, I guess you kind of buy nutrition, but it really comes more down to the choices that you make, because you're going to be spending money one way or the other, whether you're buying crappy food or more nutritious food. I know there's kind of the stigma that goes along with, like, oh well, nutritious food, that's just for that's for rich people. I don't make a lot of money, so I can't afford that kind of stuff. It really depends on what you get. If you're buying pre-prepared processed foods, the more nutritious ones tend to cost more than the crappy ones. But if you're buying raw ingredients, you can get that kind of stuff for pretty cheap. And I know everybody's got a kind of a different situation, but I used to dumpster dive for food. I had a local organic food co-op, and they would throw out all their produce at the end of the week. Actually, it was 2 times a week. They would throw out all their old produce when new produce came in. And I remember the first time I did the dumpster diving, I was actually doing it to grab compost. I just was like, I'll just grab this stuff, throw it in my compost pile, the extra material. Well, the stuff that I pulled out of the the stuff that I pulled out of the dumpster, some of it was actually at least superior looking to some of the things that I bought in their grocery store that day. So a lot of really great stuff gets thrown out. If you can, network with your local grocery store, I guarantee that they throw this kind of stuff out. I mean, this was an organic food co-op. It was supposed to be organized by all these crunchy hippie kind of people. They're all about waste not, want not, and let's reduce, reuse, recycle. They literally had a kitchen in the grocery store, but they didn't use their old produce. They brought in new produce. There is so much waste in our society. So if you are someone that doesn't have a lot of financial means, and I know what that's like. I used to live in a trailer and go dumpster diving. There are all sorts of workarounds for it. So you can get proper rest, you can get proper nutrition, and you can get proper exercise if you prioritize it as being a part of your life. And I know I don't enjoy exercise either. In fact, squats are my least favorite exercise in the world. Whenever I'm going through my exercise routine, I hate it when I get to squats, and I do 2 sets of squats. In all, I do 70 squats every time I do my exercise routine. I hate it, but I prioritize my health, and that's something that I can do to work towards it. So rest, nutrition, exercise, getting those things. One part of nutrition is also getting, special kind of nutrients in there. Taking vitamins, during cold and flu season, getting plenty of zinc and getting plenty of vitamin D, and be aware you can overdose on these things. It's not just like, well, if one's good, 100 must be better. You want to get your proper levels of those things and not go above that, because you can have problems, if you're overdosing on vitamins. But proper zinc, proper vitamin D, proper vitamin C, really proper all the vitamins. Yeah, just at least getting a decent multivitamin into your diet, especially one that's food-based and has really good ingredients in it. That is going to go a long way to fill in any holes that you have. Here's another special thing that I do, and this is one that a lot of people think that I'm kind of crazy for doing. I'll eat raw garlic, not every day of the year, and not every day during cold and flu season, but if I've been somewhere where I feel like maybe there was someone sick there, like today, my boy's just getting over his little cold, and I've been doing this like crazy. Piece of raw garlic and some strong tasting juice. In this case, it's grapefruit juice. It's not as bad as you think. In fact, I barely taste the stuff. What I do is I just fill my mouth up with juice, and then I kind of nibble some of the garlic. I'm gonna do it for you guys right now. Kind of nibble the garlic into kind of like a mush, and then just swallow the whole thing, all at once. In that way, I'm getting, this raw garlic into my system, but it's not like I got a mouthful of raw garlic. And here I go to demonstrate that this is actually something that's possible. There we go. Garlic and grapefruit juice. And I can feel, there's a little bit of garlic breath in there, and I can feel it in my throat, but I feel like that is protective, and it's just blowing these volatile organic oils all throughout my, respiratory system. So if anything kind of floats in there, maybe this will take care of it. I don't know if there's a lot of scientific backing behind this, but I know there was one year, many years, actually it was 2 or 3 years in a row actually, where I did this. And this is the only thing I did during cold and flu season. I would always go out and I'd be working with people who were sick. And whenever I did this every day before I went out and after I got back, for those 2 years, I just never got sick, and then I got lazy about it, and then I went back and I started getting sick again. So at least in my personal life, this seems like it's something that's helpful. If only maybe it just kind of keeps people away from you because you get your garlic breath. So that is another thing that I do. Something else that we do here is we do sanitizing of any groceries that come into our house or any mail that comes into our house. Just if the mail carrier just is like sneezing and they get like their mucus on your mail, so that you're sanitizing that before it comes in. Same thing when you're at a grocery store and there's a bunch of stuff in front of you like produce or whatever. There's always people coughing and hacking, and that stuff that flings out and it lands on your fruits and your vegetables and things like that. It's important to wash all of those things, but before we even bring stuff into the house, we run them all through a UV light box using UVC light. I have a sense that probably also helps prevent spoilage or delay spoilage, because not only are we destroying virus material that might be on the surface of all of our fruits and vegetables, it also is destroying like mold spores and things. So I have a feeling like our produce has been lasting longer since we started that, but I never kept really strong records, and it could just be me kind of imagining things. But it certainly can't hurt, and I know that in the industry of agriculture and produce production and all that kind of stuff, they do use UVC lights exactly for this purpose, to like kind of sanitize things so they're not going to spoil during shipping. So it seems like there is legitimacy behind that idea, and we certainly have been using it here, and it's been working out okay. The big thing that we do above all other things is just, if you know there's going to be sick people around, just try to stay out of that situation. Now I know that's not possible for a lot of people with different people's jobs and works and environments, and people who go to public school. My boy does homeschool, so we have a little bit more control over that. But wherever you do have control over that, if you just avoid hanging out with sick people, I think that's probably like the strongest stick of dynamite in your quiver to mix a bunch of metaphors all at once. Okay, so those are all the things you can do that are pretty much free kinds of things. And this is something that costs a little bit of money, but I'm glad that I have this device because we're running it in our house right now, because if you do fail to prevent some kind of an illness from coming into your house, you're not going to take your family member and like just throw them out into the snow. You have to kind of cohabitate together. And one helpful way of trying to reduce everyone else's chance of getting the illness while they're in the same house with that person is to be filtering the air. So if you have someone in their room, you can have an air filter running in that room, and that is going to reduce the virus load that's kind of floating around in the environment in that room. And then, in the rest of the house, wherever other people are hanging out, really kind of the more of them, the better, to just constantly be, filtering whatever virus material might be floating around through your air through a filter instead of filtering it through your lungs. This one is made by a company, I know I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce their name. This was sent to me for free. I'm not being paid to mention it to you guys, but it was sent to me for free to try out. And I've done a couple of filter review videos in the past, and I wasn't really predisposed to do it. We got plenty of filters here in the house. I didn't need another free one. But the reason that I wanted to try this one out is because it has kind of an interesting feature on it. And I want to share just that one thing with you. It's kind of a small design. It's sort of compact, so you wouldn't think that it's capable of very much. But what's cool about it, and there's a couple extra things that are cool about it as well, but this is the reason that I agreed to review it, is that it's got 2 filter inserts on both sides. And I thought that was kind of neat because it's sort of based on those kind of DIY. You take a box fan and you put a bunch of HEPA filters around it, and you kind of make your own air filter, and those work totally fine. It all comes down to the filtering material itself. All the bells and whistles and lights and all that kind of stuff, that's all just kind of stuff to make your life a little bit more convenient and be a little bit more showy. What it really comes down to is you're just pushing air or pulling air through a filter, and it all comes down to the quality of the filter. So if you wanted to just take a box fan and throw a couple of filters around, that'll work just fine. This is a way of getting a little bit more elegance. It's a little bit easier to move around, all that kind of stuff. It does have some cool other features, aside from the fact that it has like the 2 double filters on either side, so it makes it a more compact design. So it's it's just less bulky to be moving around. It has a nice little handle on the back, so it's easy to move around. It has a couple of extra features. features. It has a timer feature in here where you can set it for, I think it's like 2, 5, or 8 hour increments or something like that. So you can have it run for a while and then it'll shut itself off. You know, that's kind of a nice thing to have. One thing that is kind of a downside with this is that frequently, when I am running this kind of stuff, I'm running it off of timers that, you know, are standalone timers. I have everything in my house on timers. All the ventilation systems are all on these like little mechanical timers that I've got all over the place. Cheap little things, but real workhorses around here to turn an air filter on at a certain time, or turn a dehumidifier on at a certain time, or a circulation fan on at a certain time. We run the house here off of solar power, so you want things kind of going on at certain times when you have kind of peak sun. So I use these little mechanical timers all the time. And if you are like me, and there's not that many people who are, but if you are someone that's like me and you like using mechanical timers, this won't run off of a separate mechanical timer, because this has a situation where if you unplug it, if it's on and you unplug it from the wall and then you plug it back in, which is kind of what a separate mechanical timer does, it just cuts the power and turns the power back on, this doesn't start running again. And that's kind of a downside with electronic stuff in general. I like things that got knobs that click, and it's like, that's in an on position, that's in an off position. When you get this kind of electronic stuff, it reduces your ability to, do those kind of like, Rube Goldberg kind of jerry-rig things where it's, I got this mechanical timer, and this timer runs into another timer, and that does, all this other things. So if you wanted to set this thing up where something else is turning it on and off, you can't do that. As soon as the power gets cut, when power gets fed back to it, it won't turn back on and start running again. So that's kind of a downside for me, but most people aren't like me anyway. It's got several different fan speeds. It also has a night setting, which will set it down to the lowest, the quietest setting, and turn all the lights off. And one thing that I thought was really cool about this is that it has an air quality sensor in it where it will tell you how much parts per million particulate are floating around in the air. And I tested it out. We've got a wood stove here, so I have the capability of getting some smoke into the house. I tested it out, and it does work. When there is a little bit more higher particulate, it will go up, and it definitely seems to correspond with the actual air conditions. So I think this is a pretty cool filter. You can get replacement filters for it. They're about $15 each. So if you're going to replace both at the same time, it was a little under $30, at least at the time of this recording. I'm going to put a link down in the description below if you wanted to check this thing out. But again, staying healthy, during cold and flu season, or whatever time of year, it's not something that you have to pay money for. Things like this, they're cool, they make it a little bit easier, they're convenient, you can just kind of carry it around with you. But these are things you can kind of jerry-rig, you can kind of build them on your own, and a lot of it just comes down to getting proper rest, proper exercise, proper nutrition, taking the vitamin supplements that might help you through cold and flu season, again, like the zinc, the vitamin D, vitamin C, and obviously all the rest are probably pretty important too. Those are just like the superstars you tend to hear about. But this is something that can be achievable by people whether you have spare spending money or not. And I think it's a noble goal to try to achieve a good quality of health in your life. And it always baffles me why people who tend to be into emergency preparedness tend to, when faced with like real situations that are uncomfortable and are like readily avoidable. So many of us preppers tend to just be like, oh, well, that doesn't exist. Viruses don't exist, or changing climate patterns don't exist. It seems like the real things are the things that we preppers tend to like imagine aren't there, and then we fixate on things that I guess are real. Meteors come in and they strike the planet, and civil wars actually happen, but they're pretty uncommon, and they're not like literally happening right now like some other things that people in my genre tend to like to pretend aren't there. So that's it. If you wanted to check this out, there's a link down in the description below. I mean, air filters are air filters, but what's nice about this is that the price on it was pretty low. The filter replacements on it were pretty low. I like the fact that it is easy to move around, it's kind of small, and the air quality sensor feature in it was pretty cool as well. So that's it. I hope you found this helpful, and thanks for watching. Please subscribe for new videos all the time, and if you'd like to support this channel, you can do so either through Patreon or PayPal.